Our conversations with Major League Rugby's newest and brightest stars continues this offseason. And this week, we talked to a top 5 pick from the 2022 MLR Collegiate Draft who joins his hometown team. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode number 34 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of trying to make fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR. As always, I'm Ryan Yee. Matt Yee is with us, and hey, look who's back.
We're back,
Danny Vanderpool.
Look who
finally made time for the boys. Look who finally made time from, doing all your insider information stuff, browsing the Reddit streams of the Warriors. No, it takes a lot of time. I get it.
Yeah. Listen. All that matters is I'm back, baby. I'm back.
Yeah, there were some conspiracy
I lost
theories
my voice over the weekend, so bear with me. I was at a wedding. Great wedding.
Thank goodness.
Shout out to the newlyweds.
There we go. Matt and I, last episode, Vandy, we were trying to cook up some conspiracy theories on why you might not like us anymore and why you were maybe going away a little bit. We were trying to figure out, hey, maybe he's taking this insider thing that he mentioned 2 weeks ago about these sources that he had. Maybe he's becoming the newest and brand new MLR insider. He's becoming that Schefter of Major League Rugby that he was talking about. Or we said, hey, maybe he just wasn't happy with the way the Utah Warriors drafted and he just needed some time off from the MLR. It ranged from the whole above.
I'm not allowed to release certain information to you
guys. Get that garbage out of here.
I was gonna let you go off with browsing the Warriors Reddit page, but it's only got what, like 15 posts, 5 posts. That's all going that it's got. It doesn't take too long, eh? So now I can't, that couldn't have taken you that long.
Utah Warriors fans have lives, Matt. It's off season.
Come on. Look, this is rugby. Isn't that what they said? Everything's rugby.
Whatever.
There we go. All right. Well, hey, Vandy, we'd love to have you back here, man. Really happy to have you part of the show once again. We got lots to catch up on, and we got an exciting episode. This one, like we said at the top, we got a top 5 pick on this episode to talk about what it's going to be like to play for his hometown team. Pretty exciting stuff. But before we get into any of it, we're going to remind you, just like we do every single episode, if you aren't following us already, you got to do it. At the Fantasy Ruckers on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Discord. We got it all. That's where you're going to get all the latest on fantasy rugby in the MLR, how far we've made progress in terms of making this thing an actual reality. And hey, if there's ever a brand new spot or a brand new league that is opens up, if we're able to expand this thing to more people, you're going to find out about it there first. So make sure you follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers. Lots of good stuff there. Lots of good conversations being had in the get that garbage out of here, Vandy. A lot of stuff, good stuff there in the Discord channel. So make sure you have a look at that link in the description where you can join that channel and take part of the fantasy rugby conversation and any other conversations that are happening in Major League Rugby. So let's get to it, Matt. I know. So you got the honor of introducing Cali last week, and it seems like now there's a Thunderbird infestation on this show because 2 weeks in a row you're bringing all your boys back onto the Fantasy Ruckers. Why don't you talk a little bit about it here?
Hey, I was just thinking, it is unreal that we have in the past 2 weeks gotten 2 of the top 5 picks from the US MLR draft. So Sam Gallo, Villani, Seth Purdy, reach out and get on the show because you can help us build our repertoire here and get all 5 of the top 5 picks.
No, it's the Vandy, Matt, it's the other way around, dude. It's that we would help them out. If they want to start making their name here, it's not that they're helping us out. If they want to make their name in MLR, they need to come on the Fantasy Rucker Show.
I don't know if they get royalties for jersey sales, but they go walk when you come on here.
Right.
That is true. And hey, look. talking about our guest and our upcoming guest, I mean, talk about smart. He knows that this is helping his stock. So,
stocks, baby.
So yeah, and I just wanted to kind of the stocks, baby. I just wanted to start off with a quick little story about this absolute legend of a player. And you can just think back to like an 11-year-old me. I was fat and smaller at the same time. I don't know how that works, but you know, I in a rugby tournament and I'm playing for the good old Markham Irish. You know, this guest here is playing for the Peterborough Pagans at the time, and this guy was one big, hairy, you know, everything that you didn't want to tackle. All right, everything you didn't want to tackle. Anyways, after this, I had to go to a wedding. It had an all-you-could-eat candy bar. Okay, for an 11-year-old, that is, you know, you don't want to miss out on those chances. Right? This guy hit me so hard in this tournament, I could not make it to the candy bar. And that just shows the power that you're getting, you know, the Arrows are getting, and that they've got him with this fifth pick of the draft.
Wait, Matt. So what you're telling me is he hit you so hard you went into puberty.
Look, it is what it is, you know. You know, that just speaks to the power of this man that's coming on this show. You know, the 5th overall pick, absolute legend, my man, Owain Ruttan, also known as Curly.
There we go. Owain Ruttan hopping on the Fantasy Ruckers show. Matt, you mentioned it. Top 5 pick here, going to the Toronto Arrows. Yep. Owain, thanks for hopping on the show, dude, and chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas, and thanks for the kind words, if you could call them that, Matt.
Hey,
that's probably the most Canadian opening up to an interview there, right there.
That's about as nice as Matt gets, eh?
Look, you knocked me out of going to an all-you-can-eat candy bar. What could I say? It made an imprint on my life there, Curly. And just by the way, I am going to slip up and call Owain Curly the entire show. I honestly sometimes forget his name is Owain, and as you can see in my intro, I pronounce his last name wrong. And that's because I literally never call him by his last name. He has always been Curly to me since I was like 13. So just wanted to make that disclaimer before we start.
All right.
Okay. No hard feelings.
Let's start off right off the top there, and that kind of is a nice little segue here into the draft, Owain, because once again, congratulations, pretty awesome stuff, man. It's really, really cool to see kind of guys that have you know, that we know from the past making steps here and obviously making a name for themselves here in the collegiate draft, top 5 pick, which is big stuff. So it was exciting when we saw their name. But speaking of your name coming across when we were watching it on Fox Sports 2, tuning into the collegiate draft, going down the picks. And first of all, I'll open it, and we had this conversation with Callie last week. After the whole the Sam Gola pick at the top, I don't think anyone had any idea of who was going where, because there were a bunch of mock drafts, and that were out by a bunch of different people. And I don't think after Sam Gola in that 1st overall pick with Dallas, I don't think anyone had any one of the same names going in the same order. I don't think I saw your name once in any of those mock drafts. So that's one that took me by surprise. So going down the disrespect,
or you just didn't remember it. You're like, wait, Curly.
Right. Well, then that's my point, is that so when we're actually on draft night and the names are going through, and I see this guy, Owain Ruttan, picked by the Toronto Arrows, 5th pick. I'm like, oh, okay, like, let's look into this guy. And then I get a text from Maddie saying, oh, man, Curly got chosen. Like, this is sweet. Like, this is awesome. Like, I can't believe my boy got chosen. I'm just like, wait. Oh, that's right. Owain is freaking Curly.
He's got a name.
He's got an actual name. Holy crap. So, yeah, for all the listeners out there, us going back to the Ontario Blues days when Matt played with Owain, we've always gone by him by Curly. But those were the big hair days, Owain, that came back. But it was just funny. But, hey, why don't we talk about that, man? Being drafted, seeing the Owain Ruttan name coming down Fox Sports 2. Pretty exciting stuff, dude.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like you mentioned, there were some mock drafts going around. I think you know, some of them I wasn't on, some of them had me in the 3rd round, and really I didn't have a clue where I was going to go either, to be honest. But pretty thrilled to be headed to Toronto. You know, obviously an Ontario native, so I think my family's pretty happy about that too.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
So how's it work? Did you get a phone call, or did you just see your name pop up on TV?
Well, you know, kind of like what Callie was saying last week, like a few coaches were kind of having a chat with me. It was more just like a pre-draft interview, see, you know, what kind of guy I am, what I'm looking for. But no, I didn't until it came up on the TV. I didn't really know where I was going for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty fun.
That's crazy because Callie had a completely different experience, right? Like Callie he was in contact. He was getting flown down to the smokehouse down in Austin, right? Like a completely different experience, and that's crazy. You know, that's only 2 picks away from Callie.
Yeah,
like,
I think the guy at 4 must have said no to the Austin trip, and then I didn't get the call at 5. So.
Oh my goodness, Seth would say no, eh, Curly?
Yeah.
Crazy. But why don't we talk about that, Owen? Like, why don't we talk about kind of that draft process and the days leading up to that, even the weeks or months, about, you know, your training process, kind of your outlook on your intentions of joining the MLR. Kind of how was that for you? Once you kind of finished up your kind of UBC days, what was kind of your mindset? Was the MLR always something that you were looking at? Were you was that your focus when you were training? And then kind of the days leading up to the draft, how was that all like?
Yeah, so obviously, you know, the MLR is still a pretty young league, and it's definitely something that, you know, I've thought, oh, maybe that'd be cool to try it one day, sort of since it came to fruition. But, you know, throughout the school year, I wasn't really too sure what I was going to do, if I was going to keep playing rugby after the school year. You know, we had a great season out at UBC, and I thought about just going out on a high note there. But I don't know. Anyone who knows me knows I can't stay away from rugby. So I threw my name in the hat, and it couldn't have worked out better.
Hey,
how is that eligibility process kind of work? Like, do you just like send them a message, just like, hey, I want to play for you guys? Is that how it works?
Well, to declare for the draft, there's a whole they've got the whole third-party platform. It's an app on your phone, actually, and you got to submit a bunch of documents that prove that, you know, you go to school and play rugby there. And if you can do
take
that,
notes,
then,
man. Start taking notes.
If you can do all that, then the next day your name shows up on the website, and then you're in the draft, I guess.
There you go. Hold on. Did you have? When did they ask you for that sweet video that they have, or that they had playing? Because honestly, even though if I forgot your name was Owen, and I just saw the video, and just by seeing this dude in the scrum cap just stealing balls out of mauls and running for tries and intercepting balls, I mean, that is literally, I would be like, oh, that's Curly. Yeah, that is no doubt Curly playing. Did you send them that awesome videotape? Did you put it together? Because, I mean, that was a good one, Curly. That was a good one.
Yeah, you know, I threw that together myself sort of in the spring when I was finishing up at UBC.
Video. There we go.
Yeah, it was a bit of a lengthy process, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So if anyone needs a highlight reel, you know, hit me up. I've really got all the skills.
Flanker for the Toronto Arrow / videographer hype man. I think is what they got to list you on the MLR side, I guess. That's hilarious, dude. But how about, okay, so that was the intentions. You saw the MLR as a kind of an avenue for you to continue playing rugby, to continue the next steps, I guess, of your rugby career. What was kind of, you know, you talk about draft interviews leading up to that day of you actually getting drafted. Were there teams that you were speaking with leading up to those days that you kind of connected with more? Did Toronto always feel like was somewhere that you had a higher chance of going just based on the way the conversations were going? Or was it really going into Thursday night draft night, you had no idea where you were going or what was going to happen? You didn't know first round, third round, kind of what was your vibe going into it after those conversations?
You know, there's a lot of great people at every team, and all the conversations I had were really positive. So I would say, you know, I didn't necessarily connect with anyone team better or have a strong preference. But I guess, you know, you look at the structure of the league and how it works. As a Canadian guy, I definitely feel like Toronto is more inclined to grab me over an American dude because, you know, for some teams, getting visas can be a bit of a headache. And it just is like an extra cost for them as well. Like you look at Toronto's picks, they're all Canadian guys, so they don't have to do any sort of a visa request or anything. But other than that, you know, I think if I didn't go to Toronto, I probably would have ended up down in the States. At least I think so.
Yeah, honestly, I have no doubt that somebody would have definitely snapped you off the board if it wasn't Toronto. But speaking of your kind of talk to the teams, did you have any? You know, did Toronto give you any feeling? You know, did Bill Webb give you any feeling that, hey, you're going to be one of our top picks to the draft this year, or were you in the dark with that as well? Did they not really leak it to you at all?
No, I would say they didn't really leak it to me. You know, they definitely expressed, you know, I guess an interest in me through a draft interview. But yeah, like in terms of did I know, I would say definitely not.
That's crazy to me. And man, you
that makes it so much cooler when it just shows up too.
For sure. And sorry, Vandy, before you hop in here, I just wanted to say that it baffles me that the difference in experience between what you went through, Owen, and what Callie went through. When we talked to Callie last week, it was all I had a pretty good understanding of where I was going. They were flying him out to Austin. He was having those conversations. They kind of had an idea of how 1, 2, 3 was going. And then for you, it was just literally as soon as your name came up, that's just nuts. And you were the top 5 pick, dude. It wasn't like you were like the bottom of the first round or anything. You were like 2 picks later, which is hilarious. But Vandy, go on if you have a question here.
Yeah, I got kind of like a 2-parter. So I guess the first part would be when do you start like doing roles? Like, do you meet with the team now, or is this kind of drafted and like some maybe players have reached out to you? Do you go on like a rookie dinner, or how does that work?
Well, the coaches have kind of been in touch a little bit, and the management staff there. But we've got like a sort of a more formal call tomorrow, where I think we're going to start to really iron out some of the details about what's going to be going on with me. And then, the Arrows is full of Canadian dudes who I played with and against. So, quite a few of them have reached out and said, like, hey, man, happy to have you, which is awesome.
That helps. Awesome. And then I guess the second part would be, is there a rookie dinner? Because, it's something in football. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. You see rookies having to pay like $20,000 at like a dinner. They all split the bill, but I mean, I would hope it's.
I don't think that one's coming.
I was gonna say I would hope it's on a lower bill for you, but Jesus, is there anything like that or?
Not that I've heard of, but if so, I hope it's not $20,000.
Maybe a Happy Meal at McDonald's or something.
Yeah, don't stay away from the peelers after.
Maybe a side of apples from McDonald's. That'd be good.
Yeah, I'm still out west here in Vancouver, so I probably won't even be with the team until sort of the winter or New Year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Have you planned already when you're going to head out? Head back home to Toronto?
I'm hoping to get some clarity on that tomorrow when I chat with the team. Yeah.
Okay, good to hear.
Cool. All right, well, let's talk about that since we're shifting that conversation that way. Let's talk about kind of the Toronto Arrows. I mean, that's your team now, man. It's pretty cool. You mentioned a Canadian boy growing up in the Cobourg area, a little bit of a ways away from Toronto, but you can, a pseudo hometown team kind of. I mean, it's the only Canadian team. The Canadian boy gets to go there. When you did see your name pop up on the screen when the Toronto Arrows were up, you kind of mentioned it a little bit at the top how your parents were pretty stoked. I'm sure you're pretty stoked, but I mean, you have all the Canadian ties, you have all of the Ontario ties. We know the ties that the Arrows have with kind of those traditional Ontario programs and kind of how those roots came from back there. So to hear and to see that you were drafted by the Toronto Arrows, how cool was that for you?
Yeah, it's definitely pretty special to be staying, sort of close to home. Hopefully get my family out to some games, some of my high school friends, that whole thing. And yeah, even on the team, the Arrows is definitely the one where I would say I know the most players. So it's going to be awesome. I think I'll hopefully fit right into that community.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of boys on that Arrows team, especially a lot of back row to kind of work from, like the likes of Lucas Rumble, Mike Shepard, Thomas de la Vega, I think is still there as of this moment. But how excited are you to start kind of learning more from them from already? I feel like, and I was telling Ryan this last week, that Rumble is, a pretty similar type of player to you, Curly, to where kind of just a workhorse and does all the dirty work. What is your expectations going to, and are you excited to start working with those boys?
Yeah, they've got a great roster, some great leaders on that team. So I'm really looking forward to sort of learning from them, and then also seeing what kind of healthy competition emerges. Like, they've got a really strong back row already. So to go there as a back row, it's definitely going to be some healthy competition, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nothing that you can't handle. You've definitely handled quite a bit of competition in the past.
We were talking about it, Owen, just like Matt was saying. Like, dude, I remember watching you guys when you were playing the U14, U16 Ontario days, and it was always Curly getting to every breakdown first. It was always Curly making the big hits, making the big plays from the scrum. But aside from those, and that's right. I do think that there is a pretty picture perfect player profile when it comes to meeting up with a guy like Lucas Rumble, who when I was playing against him during the Balmy Beach days and during my Markham Irish days, he was a guy that was just like that. Just had a next level gear and just could turn it on. I feel like that's a player that you could definitely learn from. Does it help to have guys like that? I mean, you quickly mentioned about guys that you've played with in the past or that you have connection with in the past reaching out to you, but having guys like Lucas Rumble, who's been in the Canadian Ontario system, guys like Paul Cellini, who's been in the system, guys like Jack McRodgers, who's been in the same system as you. So to have all those guys that are already experienced this whole Arrows thing, does it help make you feel a little bit more comfortable rather than going to a completely brand new place?
Yeah, totally. It's the same with going anywhere. If you've got someone you already know, it's going to help a ton. I'll have those sort of my friends there to lean on a little bit if I don't know exactly what's going on, and I'll have them take care of me a little bit. I don't have a problem with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we've got so many guys that we've played with Curly in the past that are on that team, and guys that we're just that are already enjoying it and killing it for the Arrows, and I'm sure you're going to be one of them as well.
Is there anyone that you're like most excited to play with again? Because it's probably been a while since you played with a bunch of these boys, eh? Like I mean, you're
always playing Jimmy O'Neill, and you're always, I don't know if Jack, maybe last time you played with him was at a camp or something, but
bunch of great players on that team, but it's got to be Jack McRodgers. Me and that guy go way back, so I'm excited to hopefully be.
That's Toronto Arrows try-scoring leader, Jack McRodgers.
Yeah, love having him.
There it is. Look, he's already close with the Stars. I have no doubt he's going to be killing it soon. He's going to be a star himself.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. How was kind of your following, just as MLR as a whole, there, Owen? Kind of. How in tune were you with the league last season? Were you following kind of how things were going, or was it more of just like kind of at the back and now you're kind of hopping into it fresh here with the MLR?
I was definitely a little bit tuned in, and it wasn't like NFL Red Zone for me or anything. But I'd try to tune into the scores and watch some highlights here and there. Just keep track of what's going on in the league, especially knowing it's somewhere I might end up one day. I like to kind of see what the quality of play is like and that kind of thing too, and who's who in the zoo in terms of teams. So I had a little bit of an eye on it.
Now, do you have any I guess teams that you are excited to play against, and if not, teams you're terrified to play against?
I'm not terrified to play against anyone. But,
absolutely no fear.
I'm looking forward to hopefully getting on the field against the Utah Warriors, so I can see my friend Emerson Pryor out there.
Oh my!
There you go.
So I was gonna try and get him on the show too, because Vandy over there has been created into a Utah Warriors fan. Right. I want to get a Utah player on there, and I know Emerson would be perfect. But right when I was about to get him, he decided to go off to New Zealand and start playing over there to try and get even better for next season. So, I mean, look out for this guy to start being a factor, being a weapon for that team.
Yeah, he's always grinding. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing him out there on the pitch. Always a fun time when I get to catch up with that guy.
Nice.
Are there any places that you're excited to go to? Like, not so much maybe for the rugby, but now, hey, you're
New York,
dude. You're a pro rugby player now. You could say it. You're a pro rugby player, which is pretty sweet to say.
Talked about the sites, Curly. He talked about the sites that he's going to.
Yeah. So, is there anywhere? Any of the locations where the teams are at that you're excited now to go see that you'll have the opportunity to fly there?
I've never been to LA, so I guess I'm looking forward to checking out LA. Maybe make it in Hollywood. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. We got big aspirations here.
With that stash, you'll make it in Hollywood, dude. 100%.
Look, I was gonna say that all the hair that used to be there back in the U14 days, the big hair Curly had, it all just went to his upper lip. So that's what happened there. It looks absolutely awesome, and I am just enjoying seeing here Vandy and Curly right on top of each other. Two mustaches. One guy's got a little bit less hair.
I'm bald, man. This is the only choice
on the upper lip.
There we go.
It looks awesome. It's just a sight to see from my end.
Oh, thanks, man.
Perfect. And just moving on here, I guess it's got to be pretty cool. You mentioned excited to play in LA. The opportunity to play at LA Coliseum, if they do stick around there, that's got to be pretty sweet too. I mean, seeing Co even in this past final getting to play at Red Bull Arena in New York. I don't know. It's pretty sweet. Probably one of the bigger venues that you'll be able to take part in.
they can afford.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's some awesome venues as well. So it'll be cool to sort of get my toes wet and see how the whole travel and playing situation even works, because
hey,
I don't really have a clue yet.
York Stadium looks pretty bumping too, man. So that'll be exciting to play there as well if they do stick around in that area. So
I did hear it was a pretty awesome setup at the York Stadium. Look, I think the York Stadium was way better than what Rugby New York had anyway. So
that's true. Their home stadium, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I would be excited to play at that York Stadium. That's for sure.
That's fair. All right, well, let's move on here, Owen, to kind of more of your rugby journey here and just talk about overall. I mean, you're excited about playing for the Toronto Arrows. You're excited about taking part in the MLR, but something that we did mention is about how you've got to this point, man. And a big part of that was obviously being part of the UBC Thunderbirds, being part of the Ontario Blues rugby system that, like we mentioned, has ties to the Toronto Arrows kind of creation and the foundation of that organization. And then, going back to even your club days, playing for the Pagans and playing in Peterborough. Why don't we start with UBC, man? I mean, we talked about Cali, who we had on the show last week. 2 UBC guys getting picked in the top 5, dude. That's pretty impressive stuff. I mean, you're talking about big time universities that you guys are competing with in the States. You're talking about Lindenwood University. You're talking about Life University. You're talking about the Cal Bear. Matt, your face is classic with your reaction to that.
Nothing. I'm just hearing you list off these universities.
But now I'm pretty sure that you can put UBC, or at least get close to putting UBC into that list of schools of creating high-level professional rugby talent. Just your reaction of seeing your boy Cali getting picked alongside with you in that top 5 and the UBC Thunderbirds program as a whole, which is pretty impressive stuff.
Seeing some UBC players, sort of make it pro is definitely pretty hype for me, especially as a guy who's been in the program for a long time. And I think there's a lot of young talent coming up too. So keep an eye on the draft board in the coming years. I just thought it was hilarious seeing Cali, walk across the stage in that video, because you text me saying, "Oh, hey man, like I'm just getting back from Austin. What's up?" And then I'm watching him walk across the stage. But yeah,
funny.
Super fired up for the boys, and I think the quality of the training at UBC sort of speaks for itself at this point. When you see guys like me and Cali go in the draft, it's definitely the place to be for rugby in Canada, in my opinion.
Ooh, that was a nice little plug there.
UBC Athletics has got to clip that. Get that on the socials.
Seriously.
So there we go. You test that, Matt? I mean, you're a UBC grad. Is that on point there?
I mean, look. I'm much less of a Thunderbird than old Curly is over there, but yeah. I mean, I can attest to it. That place is just a cesspool for talent over there with rugby.
A cesspool.
So it's a cesspool of talent.
Are they teaching you those big words there, Tool?
I was just going to say so, but
that one was all by myself. They don't teach those big words at practice. Not anymore. But yeah, I was one thing I was itching to ask, Curly, because I'm assuming that you would have kind of been going against Sam Gallo in the. I still don't remember what the cup's name is against Cal. I still can't remember. Callie and I couldn't remember. Do you know what it is?
Do the research in between now and then.
Do you know?
I just listened to your interview. It's called the World Cup.
The World Cup. Oh yes, the World
Cup. No, it's not.
That's tough one to remember.
It's called the World Cup.
Are you
I think
kidding me,
it's named after some old newspaper or something. There's a whole story behind it.
Yeah, it's like World News Vancouver or something like that. Yeah. Anyways,
Cup.
but that's what I couldn't remember. Anyways, you would have won against Sam Gallo in one of those games, I'm assuming. How was that? Do you remember playing against him? Like, do you remember being like, oh, like, wow, this guy can be not like a number one pick, but this guy's like somebody that you got to watch out for. Did you notice him or not really?
Well, Cal's always a good competition, but in terms of individual players, it's just another sort of faceless jersey, in my opinion. Like, I don't really. I couldn't think back to the games. Like, I don't remember
Arrows. If you're listening to this is just the type of absolute mentality, this dog mentality coming from Curly over there that you're gonna get. I mean,
he's just salivating.
He is just a scrum cap assassin. This guy goes around as a scrum cap, just stealing balls, causing turnovers, causing havoc at the breakdowns, crossing the line sometimes, but, you're only crossing if you get caught. But
Yeah,
my goodness, what type of mentality is that? That is crazy.
Thanks, Maddie.
I love it.
All right, and now moving on to kind of your previous, before your UBC playing days here, Owain. Ontario Blues, obviously big relationship and big career through those junior days. Matt's wearing the jersey that you guys rocked. You guys played on the same team there in those youth days, playing for the Pagans. Can you just speak on the overall impact that kind of youth rugby has had for you in Canada in terms of playing for the Ontario Blues and taking part in the club system? Because I think a lot of people are having questions right now on what the best way is to kind of grow this game. And here in the U.S., it's very, I think, easy for some people to just jump, say, hey, the collegiate system, you just got to hop in the collegiate system. But something that I did notice in the 2022 MLR Collegiate Draft, outside of UBC Thunderbirds and UVic, there's no other Canadian schools that are in there. So there's obviously a bigger funneling system through these Ontario programs, through the club system in Canada. So kind of speak on the impact that the Pagans had on you, and also being part of the Ontario Junior Blues too.
Yeah, growing up playing club rugby in Ontario, it wasn't super glamorous, I'll be honest, because it's a lot of driving. It is long weekends. But the quality of coaching and stuff I had, I think I got pretty lucky. I had some great coaches along the way, and definitely a great development pathway for someone that's that young. But and I think it's becoming more clear now that collegiate probably is the way to go if you really want to sort of develop as a rugby player. I think Queens is a pretty young team, didn't really have any players in the draft as far as I know. But I think there's a lot of good collegiate pathways in Canada that are popping up, and those are just going to continue to get stronger. So club, I think, funnels into that collegiate pathway really well, because that's sort of, I ended up at UBC after playing for the Blues and meeting Curry Hitchborn at a tournament. So yeah, it's definitely part of the pathway.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe that will include the Western Mustangs getting a little bit better over the next year. I don't know about that, but we'll see whether.
I mean, it seems like all the other teams are getting better except Western.
I know. Did you see that they posted open tryouts the other day?
Wow.
And that's when you know that you're. Oh, see, there we go.
No, it's
that's
a club.
The pathway,
Vandy, it's a club. It's a club, so you don't even have to.
Owen made it clear.
What's that course? I'll just take kinesiology or whatever. That's what everybody
there we
else
go.
takes.
Owen made it clear. You go to that third portal. You just got to show them proof that you're going to school and you're playing for a team. We'll get you signed up at Western, get you to those open tryouts, and you'll be a Utah Warrior in no time. This is gonna be great.
And then I'll draw you a little piece of paper that says I'm 21 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that'll be good.
Hey, can I get a visa if I got a criminal record or what?
We don't have to get into that, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't think Utah's gonna want you anyway.
We'll gloss over that for the time.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
There we go. All right. Well, Owen, just finishing up some last final questions here while we have you on. We mentioned a little bit before the show about kind of the whole fantasy aspect of this. You mentioned quickly that you play a little bit of fantasy football, so you kind of have a general understanding, I guess, of how intense, I guess, being a part of a fantasy sport adds to the level of watching, football on the weekends. Callie was more of an outdoorsman, not really as much in tune to the whole fantasy situation. So I think we can lean on you a little bit more here with these questions. But hearing the idea that there could be fantasy rugby in the MLR, I mean, there was this past season, and it went by pretty smoothly. I mean, I'm sure one of these guys may take a flyer on you to see maybe or not you could score some fantasy points for them. But to hear the idea that there could be this whole aspect, what's kind of your impression on that? What's kind of your initial reaction? I mean, you've been on the other side of it picking fantasy football players, dude. We're gonna be here picking Owain Ruttan Owain Ruttan onto our fantasy squads. How does that sound?
You know what? Sounds awesome. Like, I love everything that you fellas are doing with this, with the fantasy Ruckers and growing a bit of fantasy MLR. Like, what a great way to get some more eyes on the game and to get people engaged and watching every week. I think, as many people as you can get involved in this is just awesome. Like I'm a huge fan of fantasy sports, if you can't tell already.
I think we need to get you an anonymous name that you can go under just so you can draft yourself.
So it should be pretty funny. I mean, what's tricky with your position there, Owen, is that the way that our league operates right now in terms of the rules and the what we can score and how kind of limited our resources with the stats are, it's very like score heavily based. So a lot of it is coming off of tries. A lot of it is coming off of kicking plays.
Do you not watch his highlight tape? His highlight tape showed him scoring some beautiful tries.
I'll just have you know, I used the 10 No, I had a 9. That didn't get me a single point for 8 weeks. All right. I believe in people. Okay.
But it will be interesting. We talked about kind of adding different kind of stat lines. And, you know, if we do add tackling, I feel like that's a category, Owen, that you're going to absolutely dominate just because of the work engine that
turnovers.
you have. Turnovers there too. Mike Smith was actually the second in the entire league with hits, and unfortunately we didn't have him on. We had unveiled the fantasy ranking to him that he had, and if we had,
doesn't that make you just want to beat him, Curly? Curly, doesn't that make you just want to beat him? It makes me. Well, I could never beat him at tackling, but you can beat him at tackling.
Hey man, we'll see.
But my point being is
that was all. Oh yeah, I'm going for that title.
My point being is this is a nice little segue into our Ask TFR show question that we have for this week that we run every week. And someone had reached out to us about this question that they wanted to ask some of our new MLR draftees as we kind of try to figure out this whole stats thing, is especially for a back rower and especially for a flanker, kind of getting their opinion. I think we know what backs really do like, but the stat category that kind of you enjoy the most, Owen, got to ask you here from the viewers. When you are in a game, what do you guess what is more satisfying for you, or what is the most rewarding for you? Laying out a big hit, stealing, getting a crazy turnover ball, or forcing a penalty? I know that was something that's always a fun feeling to have. Or, overturning a scrum, or, one of those team mauls that, line out on the 5-meter line and you're involved in one of those team forward pack pushes. If you had to kind of all those scoring situations that could be involved in fantasy rugby for you as a player, what would be the most exciting for you, gets you pumped up the most?
As a back rower, I really live for those poaches and those turnovers.
Of course
of course. But there's a thing of beauty to when your whole forward pack is just pushing over a scrum or a maul as well. I can't lie; those do get me pretty fired up. But personally,
those get everybody fired up. To be
fair.
Yeah. I know you for sure love those. Now, does your answer change if we add in another scoring element of getting a red card? Do you enjoy that more than getting poaches?
I heard you lose points for that, so
it is minus
next year. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy penalty.
But the thing is, Owen, if you are going to start racking up red cards, it would be nice for you to tell us so we won't draft you, so that we won't get put your fantasy for
Look, I was watching last season. There's a lot of more reckless people than you out there, Curly, and I would say that you're on the reckless side here.
When I inevitably draft you, just hit me a text that morning. Just be like, you know what? I woke up feeling violent. Don't blame me.
Just let us know if you're feeling dangerous.
Yeah, just let me know if you woke up feeling some type of way.
But funny that you do mention that, Owen, about kind of those team tries and pushing it over. Something that kind of had a fantasy implication. Your boy Jack McRodgers, who you say that you're most excited to play about. So we are watching their match. I forget it was against who, but it was like their second or third last match of the season. I think it was Paul Cellini's 50th cap for the Arrows. And I think it was his he was the longest running Arrow to start the most matches for them or something like that. So Matt, I think you had him on your team, right? Or someone had him on his team. It was Vandy.
I had McRodgers.
Okay, so Vandy might have had McRodgers on it. They're going for a maul, right, on the 5-meter line. It was a line out. And usually, we've been watching the entire season, Owen, that usually the Arrows bring it down, and it's usually Jack who's coming around the backside to then scoop up and be that last kind of receiver to score the try. Because, and we can only assume, and we did confirm it with Jack afterwards in an interview.
The audacity.
That So what they usually did, Jack came around, but instead of keeping it and being that first receiver, he handed it off to Paul Cellini, who then ended up scoring the try, who absolutely sewered Vandy, who didn't get the fantasy points from him. And then Paul Cellini ends up scoring an absolute record week and ruining everyone's week. So just so that you know, your guys' decisions do have fantasy implication and does cause some misery here over at the Fantasy Ruckers. You can see Matt's face about it.
That's just selfless play from Jack McRodgers. You got to go follow that.
I wasn't even mad about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
He would. You hear that, Commish? He says that we need points for that type of selfless play. If that ever arises, Jack gets 20 points or something.
No,
It's just called the Big Heart.
The Big Heart Award.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a big heart, and he's just loves the boys. That's all it is. Classic Jack.
You get at 1 point for the Heart of the Week award. The most
Okay,
generous
what are you?
play.
So are you selecting that, buddy?
And then,
is that what you're
and then
selecting?
we're gonna
That's right.
start.
That's
and
right.
then
I gotta make it smart.
we're gonna start handing out participation ribbons after that too. It's gonna be great. Yeah, this will be a friggin'.
What are you trying? Hey, whoa! What are you trying to say, Ryan? What's wrong with
Oh,
you guys?
come on, man.
guys
We love
know-
participation
Hey,
ribbons here.
What's wrong with
Right,
participation?
we love participation ribbons here. Okay, Vandy?
Vandy, out of all the people that I know in this world, okay, out of everyone that I know in this world, the one person that would be against giving out participation ribbons,
I didn't say it.
especially
You
for
said
someone
it.
who has
Hey,
a
you
young,
said it. I didn't say it.
Louis, who I know, who you want to make sure that has a little bit hair on his chest and is grows up to be, a strong Vanderpool. You ain't giving no participation ribbons to Louis.
Louis is gonna play soccer next year. If he gets a participation trophy, it's staying.
You're
on the
ripping
field.
it and you're throwing it out. That's what you're doing.
I heard Louis playing
Top
rugby.
tier parenting. Yeah, I heard he's the next star for the Utah Warriors.
Yeah, right. He's
But-
too busy reading books.
He's smart. He's a smart guy.
He
There
is a
you go.
smart kid. Anyways,
But hey, Owen, man, I really do appreciate you hopping on, man. We're super excited. When we saw your name come across the list, number 5 overall, it was super exciting stuff to see 2 UBC guys. Matt was really pumped about that, and he said, "Hey, I got to get these guys on the show. I need to reach out to my boys and give them a congratulations." So yeah, man, congrats on getting drafted, and super excited to see what you are going to do here in this upcoming season. Last question for you, and I think a lot of people want to know before you kind of head out here. Is this your kind of long-term rugby career goal here? Do you see the MLR, and we asked Callie this last week, do you see the MLR as kind of a stepping stone for you to kind of continue pursuing the next level to your rugby career, kind of see where this kind of takes you? I mean, we're seeing a lot of guys being able to use this as that kind of first step into making their big waves into joining overseas leagues, whether that's in New Zealand, whether that's in Japan, whether that's in England, a lot of different movement. And it's starting to see that the MLR is kind of that starting point. Is that something that you can see yourself doing in the future?
Yeah, I think totally. And a lot of MLR coaches are sort of aware that it's all about development for a lot of players, right? And for me as well, a big part of being in this league is just that high performance environment I can be in, and just trying to be the best rugby player I can be, and just keep improving, try and find my ceiling, see where it is. In terms of a specific destination, I haven't really thought about it too much. I'm just looking forward to getting my toes wet in the MLR next year, and then just trying to,
You gotta get to
keep
Toronto
getting better
first.
every day. It's how it goes.
Yeah, take it one step at a time. But that's gonna be super exciting stuff, man. I know this whole interview has been absolutely on the books, man.
It's
Arrow's
just
got
been
themselves-
absolutely. He's already a pro. Curly, you're already a pro. No public relations training needed. I'll sign off
thanks,
the
man.
There
certificate.
we go. Cool to say, Owen, that you're a pro rugby player officially. Is that feel cool to roll off the tongue there? Is that what you're telling people now?
Hey, man, I'm not in Toronto yet.
hey, there you go.
But
Fair enough.
I'm definitely looking forward to getting out there.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Owain Ruttan, flanker, back rower for the Toronto Arrows. You'll want to look out for him next season. He's going to be making moves, especially if we can add steals here in this league. If we add tackles in this league, man,
I wish.
Get familiar with the Owain Ruttan name, because you're going to see it up there in those fantasy rugby standings. Owen, thanks again for taking the time to talk with us, man. We appreciate you. You're more than welcome to hop on the show at any time, and we'd love to see how you continue to do here and make waves in the MLR, man.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, everyone. It's been a blast. Hit me up anytime. I'm happy to come back.
Hell yeah.
Love what you guys are doing once again. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
There you go. Thanks, Owen. Appreciate you, man.
Good to see you, Curly.
All right, Owain Ruttan of the Toronto Arrows joining the Fantasy Ruckers show.
Look at
that. Super cool stuff, man. It's incredible to see, like I mentioned, Matt, 2 UBC Thunderbirds going in the top 5. Man, it's pretty cool stuff.
The night of the draft, my phone was just lighting up. Matt's like, yo, this guy got drafted. This guy got drafted.
And there's a lot of...
all I could sit there and think is, Matt's thinking, why the hell did I go wrong?
No. Look, we talked about this.
It was the ACL.
We talked about this. My rugby career ended at those tackles, getting hit by guys like Curly, getting hit by guys like Callie in practice. You know, those guys, they take a toll. And I said, that's it for me. I couldn't do that for money
Ryan,
even.
When Ryan says, yeah, my younger brother's coming over to visit, and you walk through the door, I'm like, all right, where the hell is he?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And then we go to sushi and you crush like 90 pieces of sashimi.
Hey, maybe that's where I went wrong. Too much sashimi, you know.
Not enough rice.
Not enough rice.
You're all protein, no carbs.
That's funny. But really cool to talk with Owen. Sure. You and Owen, Matt, go a long way back. I remember watching that guy in the U14 days, and that guy has been an animal ever since.
Man, and he is, he's just an absolute menace. Has always been a menace. And Vandy, I was saying this last week that he's the type of guy that is going to find that line and just creep over it slowly, just until he gets caught. So he finds out exactly how far he can go. That's just the type of he is.
I love that,
man. And just the comment about they're just nameless faces. Oh,
you can tell.
That fired me up. He believed that too.
Sitting there just like salivating. He's like, get this man on the pitch,
dude.
I love it.
Just a silent assassin out there. Just like not a man of many words, but he's got out there. He's got a job to do. He's got some balls to poach. He's got some penalties.
You know what? There's something about these lunchbox athletes. You know. They just show up for work, do their job, and come home.
And it's something about some of these athletes from small town Ontario. So, you you Vandy, small town Ontario gives you some. There's something in those waters that helps you get pretty good at rugby.
It's farm country, is what it is.
There it is.
And for all of our fantasy listeners who we mentioned this last week with Callie Martinez and the Rugby America News MLR Draft preview, what they said about Callie. So I think it's only fair that we also do the same with Owen and mention what he was described as in his draft. I guess draft report card. I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if it says anything less than absolute mutant, then I'm going to be disappointed.
There we go. So UBC captain Owain Ruttan, which I didn't know he was UBC captain. I did you know that? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
UBC captain Owain Ruttan might be the best pure flanker available. The Canada U20 international can play either side and has a tireless work rate. So that is what they.
Those are all true statements. All true statements.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm absolutely stoked for the kid.
So yeah, really cool to have Owain Ruttan on. Again, you'll be wanting to watch him and the moves that he'll be making with the Toronto Arrows there. And
look, once he gets on the pitch, he's going to be dangerous. So if you're drafting out there, if you're part of a league, if you're able to be part of our league, like he's somebody that you want to see once he's in the starting lineups. And if we have some of those stats in there, he's going to be somebody you want.
Exactly. Well, talking about stats as we shift over here towards the tail end here of our show, guys. Vanny, I'm pretty sure you've been on, but you are aware of the announcement that we do have some more in-depth stats.
Where he's lost in the clouds,
right?
He's lost in the clouds.
I was on that episode.
There we go. All right, so we do have these MLR stats coming.
Boys.
So
you're like 10 minutes up with this thing.
There we go. All right, so we'll wrap it up here quickly, guys. So just kind of some housekeeping stuff for the way that some of these off-season episodes are going to look out here from moving forward. We are going to start breaking down some of those in-depth stats. I know that we've kind of previewed it a little bit here every single episode, but next week's episode, we are going to start adding some of these things. And the first thing that we are going to add is going to be tackling. So tackling numbers are going to be joining the MLR stats. we're going to take the MLR 2022 stats, the way that they were statted out last year and the points that were involved, and we are going to now add an additional category and say, hey, if this category was added with this point value, how does that change the fantasy rankings? And we're going to compare those and see where guys like Mike Smith, where guys like Lucas Rumble that we mentioned, guys like players like Owain Ruttan who may make different moves. That's cool. Exactly. Which we're just going to touch on a bit here. So that's going to be happening in episodes to come. Next week will be the tackle breakdown. We're going to continue bringing on more interviews for you, both current players, drafted players,
you're going to like next week.
Potential
You're going to like next week,
potential players. Oh my
You're
gosh.
on every week. You're a host. We're not having you on, Vandy. You need to be on here. We need you.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
did I flex this thing yet or what?
No, put it down. Put it down.
All right, so let's move on here, guys, to the news and notes as we close out the show, just to get people caught up on what's happening around the league as they continue to make the decisions of what will not impact fantasy rankings and fantasy performances heading into the 2023 year. Got to break some stuff down. So the first news and note that we got to talk about is the Dallas Jackals have named a new head coach, and that new head coach is going to be Italian coach Argentine Agustin Cavalieri. I think that's right. I think I've got to say that with a more of an accent, but Agustin Cavalieri will be joining the Dallas Jackals at the helm. Initial thoughts on that, Matt? You have at least a little bit of knowledge about Cavalieri and his time overseas.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was coaching Italy U20.
Yes, that is correct.
And Italy U20 is U20 and Six Nations is a good indication of how good the international team is going to be in 5 years, 10 years down the road. And you can see that with the France team, and the fact that he led Italy team to beating, I think, Wales. Italy is really meant to be at the bottom of that table there, and the fact that he's led them to a couple wins, that just it just shows the type of coach that he is and what he's probably going to bring to the Dallas Jackals.
Yeah, he joins the Jackals with experience as the U20 Italian national team forwards coach. You mentioned it, Matt. They beat 3 top-tier nations, England, Scotland, and Wales, something that's never been done before by any other nation. So obviously he has that international pedigree. It'll be interesting to see what he can bring to the Dallas Jackals. As, again, we mentioned it every single episode, this is an organization that's continuing to try to establish their foundations, establish their root, establish their cultures, and guys like a Dustin Cavalieri is
establish those foundations.
Is going to be a big part of that, and I don't think it's a coincidence either, Matt, that this is hiring after they hired their general manager, who is also an Argentine, Santi Sodini. So I think there is some sort of kind of combination there. It will be interesting to see kind of the pipeline of talent that now starts funneling through the Dallas Jackals now with more international ties. Does that mean they have more connections overseas, bringing in Argentine players, bringing Argentinian players, bringing in Italian players, things like that? It does go a long way because we've seen the impact that these foreign international spots can have on these teams. And if you can bring a big leader, big time player from overseas, any advantage is going to help with that. Moving on here, Vanny, you mentioned it partly in the show. Michael Smith, he's kind of a smart guy, friend of the show,
smart guy.
San Diego Legion superstar, mad tackler, and now add doctor to the list because that guy's going to medical school and he's going to spend some time over the next 4 years hitting the books and getting that doctor notation put in front of his name because he'll be going to what's your the medical school called?
No, I don't think he's going to UBC. I think he's going somewhere on Victoria Island. I forget what it's called, but
Victoria UBC Island Medical Program. So
there we go.
That.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking of. For sure. Yeah, 100%. But no, I'm proud of the kid. I mean, this is something that he always wanted to do. So the fact that he gets to do that and then potentially come back at some point in the season to play with the Legion, then that's great. But hey, just some news for our fantasy league. Maybe now we're thinking about Michael Smith as a first sure draft. Now we know maybe, tread with caution. You know that you're not going to have him for half the season.
Right, and then this is a guy that again was one of the leading tacklers in the entire MLR. So if in next episode when we do break down the tackles, his name is definitely going to be up there, but it's a guy that you probably won't be able to lean on next fantasy season because of his situation. Obviously, congratulations to him and everything, but when it comes to a fantasy implication, he probably won't be available for a large majority of the season. Guys that you'll be looking for in terms of, other back row players on the San Diego Legion. Chris Robshaw was a big part of them. Tavita Taimalau was a big part of them for the Legion. Even Chris Turori, guys like that. Rowan O'Regan. Those are guys they'll now be looking to in terms of a Michael Smith replacement, because this was a player that also played a large portion of 80-minute games or 80-minute matches for a large part of the season. So there was that as well. Moving on to some of the stuff that we're chatting about players moving on and using the MLR as the next step. Cam Dodson, former Austin Gilgroni player, he landed himself a trial period overseas with the Wasps there, the London Wasps in the Premiership. He's actually now done enough to at least solidify his position there over with the Wasps, and he signed himself a contract with the Wasps after his preseason trial. So obviously that just goes to show you the impact that the MLR can have in terms of setting yourself up for the future. Dodson is someone that I believe had some sort of fantasy relevance, 4.5 points out of second row. So the position that we just don't get a lot of points off of. We don't get a lot of points from Cam Dodson, 4.5 fantasy points.
He just went to the Wasps, right? You're saying he went to the Wasps. I'm pretty sure the Wasps are on the verge of bankruptcy. So even we might be seeing him back here.
maybe not, because the Gilgronis are also.
The Gilgronis are also. Oh wow! What a go figure! Hey, he goes from one team on the verge of bankruptcy to another team on the verge of bankruptcy. He must have some
government bailouts here.
Cam Dodson needs to find his way back to maybe a team that's going to be alive.
There we go. Moving on quickly here. More stuff here. Giltini's Marco Fepului, I think I said that right, joins the Colomiers, a pro D2 club in France, on a 1-year deal. He'll be moving there overseas as well. So another player that is making that next step up into his next phase of his rugby career. And then finally, a couple moves from the NOLA Gold. The NOLA Gold have traded away Christian Alvarez to the Gilgronis in exchange for salary cap considerations. Alvarez is a player that didn't have too much a crazy fantasy impact. No points on the season, only playing around 20 minutes. So we'll see whether or not this change of situation does that anything for him on the Gilgronis. Again, salary cap considerations going the other way. And then NOLA has also re-signed Ross Depperschmidt to a 2-year contract. He's a player that had a pretty big impact on the outside there for NOLA. 13.3 total fantasy points for the Gold in the 2022 season.
Interesting. Lots of roster moves going on. Lots of salary cap considerations being moved. Probably more going to be moved to the Gilgronis.
Probably more. But that's it, guys. That's the news and notes. Pretty easy little episode there. Thanks again to Owain Ruttan for hopping on, guys. Just overall thoughts about where we're at here with the MLR.
Well, look, hey, I'm excited for the new stats, and if there's one thing that you can take away from this is that if you're gonna watch Curly or Owain Ruttan play in the MLR, just know that you're getting an absolute beast, and you can tell that today.
There we go. Number one hype man. You should get.
I was gonna say, what did he pay you?
He didn't pay me nothing. Look, I just love the boys.
They need to take.
I just love the boys.
They need to take
send
your
my mom
track,
a video
Matt.
that tells her that somebody believes in me as much as you do.
They need to take your. They need to take your track, Matt, of your hyping words and put that over Owen's
videos.
Owen's hype video. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That would be the ultimate.
Hey, I'll run your YouTube channel.
Oh, okay, good. You're good. You know technology really well, so.
There we go. Best way to finish it out.
Don't laugh at that, Ryan. Don't laugh at that.
We're finishing it off on that. Again, for all of our listeners and viewers
Excel
out there,
is tough.
make sure you're tuning into next week. We're going to have a more in-depth, probably the most in-depth stats episode that we're going to have.
And another interview possibly.
and another interview possibly, if not next week, it will be in weeks to come. And we're going to start breaking down kind of the opinions that players across the league have on fantasy rugby, talk about different situations. I'm going to bring all the people on because we want to stay connected within the league and the impact that fantasy rugby's having, and we love bringing that to you guys. But yeah, stats is also a big part of it too, and we hope to have that for you guys next episode as well, because yeah, if we could add tackles to this thing, guys like Owain Ruttan, guys like Michael Smith that we talked about in the show, they're going to be making moves in the Fantasy Rucker League.
I would have done pretty well last year if we had tackles.
Yeah. We'll see about that. Okay, I'm not going to let you spew that anymore. For Matt Yee, for Devin Vandy Vanderpool, I'm Ryan Yee. Tune in next week for another episode of the Fantasy Rucker Show, and we'll see you then.
We need sponsors.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.